The White House recently honored 14 leaders from East Africa working in diaspora communities here in the U.S. Hailing from Kenya, Somalia, Eritrea, Ethiopia, and Uganda, they were recognized for their innovative work. One honoree, Teddy Ruge, is co-founder of Project Diaspora, an online platform, and the social media strategist for the World Bank's Connect for Climate campaign. He's a native of Masindi in Uganda.
For us members of the diaspora, especially for Africa, we are like the undeclared ambassadors for that country. I mean, we do things because we're passionate about it, not because we're paid to do those things. So it was really surprising to actually be recognized, to see from a state perspective that people are starting to notice the kind of work that we are doing on the continent as well as in other areas.
The role of the diaspora, is that what inspired you to start this Project Diaspora?
Yeah, I think around 2007, I started becoming very curious about what other members of the diaspora were doing. I was investing in my siblings back home and paying for their education and seeing the kind of difference that was happening in their lives just because there was someone there to support them through their university education. And that really got me curious. You know, how many other people like me are doing the same thing? So I started exploring using social media and to find other members of the diaspora and to tell their stories and for them to share their stories. You know, we ended up collaborating on a lot of projects, you know, and a lot of the people that I met along the way, I still haven't met physically, and that was the power of using the internet to really kind of connect to other members of the diaspora. So
what did you find out about what members of the diaspora are doing?
We're beginning to organize in various ways, and I think that's really going to be the key if we're going to be champions of change, as it were. When you aggregate that intellectual capacity and you couple it with technology, you couple it with Africa's youth, you couple it with the amount of remittances that we're sending, we're looking at anywhere between 40 billion and 80 billion in capital that we're sending on a one-to-one basis. What happens if we organized and put that capital towards infrastructure projects? What happens when you invest into an entire community?
What does an event like the Champions of Change do to that movement? How does it elevate it?
To me, what it showed is that from the State Department's perspective, they're starting to see that after 40, 50 years of international aid to the continent and, you know, not really much going on, we're heading in the reverse direction in terms of development. I think they're starting to see what it is that we are doing on the continent. And so as long as that dialogue opens and we begin to be invited to the table, then now the diplomacy changes. The international development landscape completely changes.
Using the example of your own organization, Project Diaspora, and the ventures that it has launched, how do they bring to life your vision of what you think the diaspora should be doing?
Women of Cherka deals with internally displaced women. They're basically remnants from Uganda's Northern War with Joseph Kony. What we wanted to do was give them skills and a business sensibility in the entrepreneurship space.
And then the Ugandan Medicinal Plants Growers Limited?
UMPG I'm particularly fond of. I started it in early 2007, this past Christmas, and we had a board meeting. I brought with me a sample of finished product. It was a pharmaceutical product, and the main ingredient on the label was moringa. And that moringa was supplied by us. That, to me, was the aha moment. So at this point, we're looking to expand. We're looking to sign up more farmers.
Now you're with the World Bank. How does that fit into the diaspora movement? How did you get into the whole issue of climate?
The time that I joined the Connect for Climate team at the World Bank, it was in the run-up to COP17 in Durban in November, and I was brought on really, I guess you could say, because I was quite vocal online and present. So it offered an opportunity for me to bring into the fold my network of connections and say, look, we need to make our voice heard at COP17 and say, climate change is going to affect the continent a lot more, even though we had zero to do with it.
Being the United States, the first world, and coming from Uganda, also Kenya, the developing world, you know, that's night and day. Some things that are here are so advanced that can you really replicate them on that level in Uganda, in Kenya, in Zimbabwe, Tanzania, Ethiopia, Kenya, wherever?
That's, of course, assuming that there isn't any innovation on the continent.
No, I mean, there is, but to the degree that it happens, say, here.
True, and I think one of the things that you have to look at is the possibility of what...
But also factoring in that most people don't even have access to the internet.
This is very true, but that's only looking at one side of the coin. If you're not looking at the indicators, then you won't see the opportunities. We have nearly 500 million people under the age of 15. That's a very youthful continent. I'm looking at 500 million mobile phones on the continent, soon to be 600 million. When you also put in the influx of finances that the members of the diaspora are putting in, 40 billion, that's higher than any other aid that's going into the, if you call it aid. If you look at that alphabet soup of indicators, to me, I'm looking at a very bright future. Yeah, you may say that we may not have access to the internet, but that's also to miss the 10 to 15 different initiatives alone to connect the continent to the World Wide Web. We have 17 terabytes of broadband going live by the end of this year, available to the continent. So I'm looking at the opportunities that creates in terms of the knowledge economy that creates. The knowledge economies that some of the countries are starting to pioneer. Kenya, for example, Rwanda as one of the others, South Africa, Nigeria. We're pushing the envelope in terms of this technology being put in the hands of these youth.
That was Teddy Ruge, co-founder of Project Diaspora. Also honored as champions of change are two diaspora community leaders who we've showcased on VOA in the past. Tsehaye Teferra of Ethiopia is founder and CEO of the Ethiopian Community Development Council, and Semhar Aria of Eritrea is founder and executive director of DAWN, the Diaspora African Women's Network.
The network begins today, but it's a network that is meant to last through the course of your life, so that from here on out you can all rely on each other. The SEED is also an acronym which exemplifies what all of you in this room already do. And it's sisterhood, it's excellence, it's empowerment, it's diversity, and it's service.
Our role is really being the bridge between the newcomers and the old comers. So we'll continue to play that role. And also, I think the immigrants coming here, developing skills, developing wealth, are also not helping the society, but also helping their folks back home.
That was Tsehaye Teferra, founder and CEO of the Ethiopian Community Development Council. And earlier you saw Semhar Aria, founder and executive director of DAWN, the Diaspora African Women's Network.